मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tachat. So I'll just share this page and we'll move forward. Now the Kalyana Piyusha Vakhya that we're looking at. So in the last class, we were doing that there is a difference between the Panchakoshas and the Atman. And then there was a question by the Purvapakhya or the argumentative student. Sir, if you argue with us, these are the courses which we are experiencing. We are connecting with reality through these courses, and then you are saying that these are anitya, these are not truth, these are not fundamentally real. But you are talking about Atma, but that's never experienced. We experience Jagrata Avastha, we experience Swapna Avastha. You are talking about a state, you're talking about one particular reality which is not subject to any experience. That means, there is a philosophical trick here. Atma cannot be experienced as an objective experience, mark my words. So, if you're looking at this cover for the spectacles, this is a Vishaya, this is an object of my perception. Atma is not something which can be the object of perception because it is the perceiver. It is itself the perceiver. So it cannot be an object of perception. That is the foundational truth of Vedanta. The student is raising a few questions. If you are saying so, nanu deham upakramya nidram dananta vastusu mavut atmatvam anyastu na kaschid anubhuyate. If you're saying starting with the Annamaya Kosha till the Anandamaya Kosha, none of this is Atma, none of this is Nitya, none of this is fundamentally real, fine. But tell me, is there anything other than these that you can actually experience, you can verify as existing? You're talking about Atma. Can you verify Atma exists? How would you verify? To verify that, you have to experience Atma. You have to perceive Atma. It has to be the object of your knowledge. But it's not so. So how do you argue? And in the answer, he said, Badham nidra dayah sarve nubhuyante nachetaraha. Yes, I agree with you, my son, that Badham, yes, I agree. Nidra dayah, starting with the state called, the Susupti and then Swapnavastha and all these states. Sarve anubhuyante. They are all subject to our experience. We do experience it. Now, there is nothing else. Tathapi ete anubhuyante yena. Okay, so you want to deny Atma. But who is experiencing these states? Who is saying that I had a good sleep? Who is saying I saw this dream? Who is saying that I did it yesterday during my waking state? I have seen it. There must be something who is beyond these states, something which is beyond the Panchakosas. Remember, this chapter is about Panchakosha Viveka. Therefore, he is saying, Nidra deha anubhiyante itara atma na anubhiyate iti yatte mugdhavachaha. These are your words, and these are mugdhavacha means you are deluded by what you are saying. You don't understand. Like many of these political leaders these days make a lot of discoordinated, unfounded statements in the public. They can tweet, they can say things, and then people also clap. These are mugdha vachaha. They are not, they are not in a way establish any logic or reasoning or anything. Tad vadham satyamiti ardhangikare. He's saying, okay, I agree with you. Tathapi ete yena ete nidradayah anuviyante. You want to know, is there an Atma? I'm asking you a counter question. What is the counter question? Can you tell me, my boy, is it possible for these to be experienced as realities if there is no experiencer, if there is no knower, no perceiver? Tam Gyantaram ko nivarayet, who can deny the existence of such a knower. Atmani anubhuya manepi, even though they are Atmani अनुभूयमानेपि निद्रांदनादि सर्वव्यवहाराणाम अनुभूता कश्चिद विद्यते इति अवश्यम अभ्युपगंतव्यम इत्यर्थः. अभ्युपगंतव्यः इति अर्थः. So what is he trying to say? आत्मनि अनुभूयमानेपि, आत्मनि अनुभूय manepi nidradayadi. So nidra ananda, the state of sleep and deep sleep, susupti, all these sarva vyabaharanana. When we make these statements, we describe these experiences that yes, these are valid experiences, and I had this experience, I had a good sleep, I stayed 2 nights at that particular hotel when I was going to Badrinath. You make these statements. There has to be somebody who is a anubhavita. For you to have some anubhava or experience, you must presume the existence of a subject who experiences. Kaschid vidyate. So that Atma, that Sarva Shakshi has to, exist. Iti avasyam, you must accept this. Now, we have to now argue if Atma actually exists, Atma is there, Atma hai, then why it's not experienced? Why it cannot be seen the way I see? If you talk to a child, you say, there is Atman. You'll say, really, there is an Atman? The child will say, where is the Atma? Show it to me. In your heart. Where? Which side? This side or that side? It's not a part of your body. And then it's not part of the body, then how it's inside my body? You're saying it's in my heart? No, no, here the heart is not referring to your physical heart. What heart are you referring to? I'm talking about yourself, the inner core of your existence. This is very confusing. You don't know where to direct me. I'm asking you for the address of a destination. I have to go to a certain restaurant for my breakfast. And in the morning, I ask you, can you tell me, is there a vegetarian restaurant? I want to go and have my breakfast. Instead of telling me go to the north or the south or this lane or that lane, you are saying the restaurant exists in yourself. And where is it? No, it's not in your body, it's in your inner core. You're just confusing me. You got no idea about where the restaurant is. You have no idea, so you're trying to confuse me. This is the doubt part of the student. The doubt here sort of characterizes all of us because it's very difficult, in fact, to grasp the essence of Atma Tattva, the Shorupa of Atma. And that's why this truth is hammered down into us through so many examples and so many words, because actually the Atma cannot be expressed in any words. That's a very tricky situation. Therefore, he's saying, Swayam Prakasha Swarupa Atmanaha Vedyatva Nirasaha. So he's saying Swayam Prakasa Swarupasya, that particular Atma, which by nature is self luminous. If you want to see, you're getting into a dark house, there is no electricity, or going into a jungle. What do you need at night to verify what is there? You need a very good torchlight. And what do you need to see the torchlight? You don't need anything. The torchlight declares itself. Yeah. But here the torchlight is like our intellect. And the original light is the sun during the day. Can you see the sun with the torchlight? No. Similarly, you cannot see the Atma with your intelligence or buddhi. A small piece of mirror which reflects the sun into a room or dark room, that light is reflected light of the sun. With that reflector, the mirror, you cannot again redirect it at the sun to see the sun. The sun is self-luminous. Atma, sun is given as an example, but the Atma is not a physical entity. If we keep that in the mind, then we can make some progress. So here what they are saying, Soyam Prakasha Swarupasya, that particular thing which by nature, by its own essence, is Swayam Prakas, is self-luminous. Tasya, of that, Atmana, of this Atma, Vidyatva Nirasha. It cannot be known as an object of perception. Very tricky thing. How do we know Atma, which is not knowable as an object of knowledge? Mark these words, it's very tricky. So when we talk about Atmajnana, we are never talking about Atmajnana the way we can talk about Ghatagyan and Patagyan, the way we talk about knowledge of administration, knowledge of physics, knowledge of mathematics. In that sense, we are not talking about Atmajnana. Atma is Jnana Swarupa. It itself is self luminous, is luminosity itself, with which we see everything else. Without the Atma, nothing is going to be visible. That point is going to be driven home in the next few shlokas, starting here in the verse number 16. स्वयमेवानुभूतित्वाद् विद्यते नानुभाव्यता ज्ञातृज्ञानान्तराभावात् अज्ञेयोनत्वसत्तया. Now look at the construction of the argument here. Swayam eva anubhutitvad. Now, you have an experience, you have one anubhava or anubhuti, and then what do you say? That because you are experiencing something, okay, because you are experiencing something, then you can argue that there is an experiencer. He is trying to say Atma itself, Swayam eva anubhutitvad. It itself is the experience. No anubhavyata, and it is not anubhavya. It doesn't have the characteristic of being an anubhavya padartha, means which can be subject of experience. Little tricky. Let's get it again. So whenever we experience anything, there is an experiencer, there is one experience, and there is an object of experience. Now, in case of Atma Tattva, he's trying to say that Anubhuti means it's itself Jnana Swarupa. It is not Jnana of something, it's not Anubhuti of something else. Therefore, that objective experience, Anubhavya Padartha, that nature doesn't apply to it. It itself is the experience. Why so? Jnatra Jnanantara Bhavat. Jnatri is the Jnata. Jnanantara Bhavat. And when you are knowing something, what do you know? The Ghata Jnana, Pata Jnana, knowledge of mathematics, knowledge of chemistry, knowledge of physics is different from you. You know physics. You know about chemistry. You are not physics or chemistry. In case of the self is such a knower, and it itself is the knowledge. There is no object of knowledge outside of it. Why so? Because we are talking about Advaita Vedanta. It's a complete non-dual perspective where there is pure infinite consciousness. If at all you want to talk about a knower, a known, and a process of knowing, or the object and outcome of knowledge, all this has to be understood, have to be imagined as none other than the self. Because neha nanasti kinchana. There is only one thing, ekameva advitiyam. There is no knower, there is no known, there is no knowing. So it's all one thing. And therefore, Vedyatva means what? Capable of being known. Vedya is what we can know. Vedyatva is the dharma, the characteristic of something which can be known. Something which can be known. It's unknowable in that sense. I'm reminded of a beautiful book you must have all read. Many of you must have read. It was a hugely popular book in the, I think it is in the 80s and the 90s. It's a beautiful book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. And there's a powerful sentence there. The truth is unknown and unknowable. I sometimes used to imagine whether this fellow had a good training in Upanishads. And a lot of these Americans had a very nice influence of the Vedantic non dualism in their own language, in their own cultural context. And that sort of speaks for itself. And Vedanta is not, it's like the Vedantic insight or the truth is not a subject matter of anybody's copyright. It's a universal truth, and everybody and anyone can own it and can make it a part of his storyline in his life. And I love that line where Jonathan Livingston Seagull, there's a sentence, it's unknown and unknowable. But does that mean we will not never be anywhere close to truth? Then how to talk about liberation? No, we would know the truth, not an object of our knowledge, but we shall become the truth by rejecting all things, all accessories, all that we attach to it and describe it. When they fall off, that pure consciousness, we become the truth. And therefore, the Shruti says, Aham Brahmasmi. It doesn't mean we are all powerful God. It essentially says that our Shrurupa is that self evident self luminosity. That self evident self luminosity doesn't look for any proof. It declares itself, and there is no need for any observer. That itself is observing itself. And there is absolutely no dichotomy between object and subject. Therefore, he's saying, Jnatra Jnanantarabhavat. There is no Jnana and Jnata. This difference isn't there. Agyeyo. Therefore, it's not knowable. It's a Agyeya Vastu. However, Natu Asattaya. Because it is Agyeya, because it's not knowable, it doesn't become Asat. Now, let's reflect on it a little. It's a beautiful verse. What is he trying to say? He's trying to say this: which cannot be known, which is not knowable through mental activity, doesn't become false, doesn't become asat. Now, here in Vedanta, they categorize agnya or not knowable or unknowable into three categories. What are the first one? Agnya. The first category of agnya is a rabbit's horn. Does the rabbit have horns? No. Or, for example, we'll say Bandhya Putra, son of a barren woman. It's asat. You can never find son of a barren woman, because the moment there was a barren lady, the moment the child is born, she's a mother. She isn't a barren woman anymore. I cannot say Mama Juha Nasti, I don't have a tongue. Oh, really? How do you speak? These are contradictory matters. And they are nonsensical. They don't make any sense. So that is the first category of asat. Asat here means tuchha. Yeah, Maya is also asat, but Maya is different from tuchha. It's not completely false. Vyavaharika satta, this all that we are doing satsang, is it completely false? No, no. This is Vyavaharika, this is phenomenal truth. So in this Vyavaharika realm, it's kadachit vritti sansarga rahitaha agnya. Sometimes there is no vritti. So this computer is there, I'm sitting here, I'm going to fall asleep. And maybe something is playing on a YouTube channel in this laptop. I don't listen to it. Why? The vritti, that sanyoga isn't happening. My mind is not connecting with it through my indriyas. There is indriya sanyoga is happening when you are asleep. Your daughter is saying, Papa, get up. She is calling you. But it doesn't go there. Vritti doesn't happen because your mind is asleep. Yeah, because your mind is asleep, you are not being able to listen to her. Okay, so that is second level of agnya. What is not known is the second level, where it exists but it's not known, because there is no relationship established between your intellect, your knowing self, and that object of perception. And there is a third unknowable. That third unknowable is what is Atma. What is that? It's Ajnaya in what sense? Because it's Swayam Prakasha. Whenever you talk about Jnayata, knowability, you're talking about a knower and an object of knowledge or knowing. So, knower and knowing. That is how this happens. But when we are saying Atma is Ajnaya, doesn't mean it is Asat. That's in the first category. So it can be Swayam Prakasa, yet it can be Ajnaya. Hope that is clear. So now let's look at this commentary, whatever he has written there. It's very not to Asat Taya. Taya means what? By dint of being Ajnaya, this Atma doesn't become completely false or non existence. The Atma is not non existent. At the same time, it may be not knowable. Not knowable is an object of perception. Atmana swam eva anubhutitvat. Atma is by itself self-evident. Sakshitaya anubhava swarupatvat, anubhava rupatvat. Sakshitaya, it's that universal witness. And we have done it again and again. During the deep sleep state, again that will come again. And during the deep sleep state, you cannot say that I cannot see anything, I'm having a nice sleep, because you are in sleep. Yeah, that's fine. Because even Buddha is in there, how would you say anything? When we wake up, we do say, I had a wonderful sleep. Now, here the argument is, if there was nobody to experience, where from you got this memory? Memory means what? It's a statement about something which has been experienced. There has to be sanskara. Then it becomes smriti rupa, because you are expressing it. So, smriti to be possible, memory to be possible, there has to have prior experience. And that happened when you were in deep sleep. So, you couldn't say that then because you were in deep sleep. But the sakshi is always there, the witness watching. And by virtue of the experience by the sakshi chaitanya, when we wake up, by virtue of the experience of the witness self, when we wake up, we say, I don't know anything. I had a very wonderful sleep. What a wonderful sleep I had, right? Therefore, he's saying Atma is not Jnaya, however, it is Swayam Prakasha, but doesn't become Asat or non existent. Then he's saying Swasmin eva anubhavyata. To Tasmin anubhavyata anya anubhava gocharatvam na vidyate. What is anubhavyata? Anyena anubhavitum sakyahiti. Somebody else can experience it. What? The jnata, which is different from Atma, but here Atma itself is the anubhavita, the one who experiences, and there is no different. It is not an object of an experience. Asmin eva sarve vyavaharaha vishayaha. All that we see, they give the example of the akasha. So in the sky, what do you experience? There are so many musics, so many sounds are being played. Somebody is playing a piano, and somebody is playing a guitar. Yeah. So somebody is playing these wonderful guitar numbers, whether it is Beethoven or, and somebody is playing a piano, somebody is playing a violin, and you're listening to all that. Where are they happening? In the akasha, in space, the vibrations. Does the akasha become any of these? Does the akasha become loud, noisy? Does the akasha becomes colorful because you see a beautiful rainbow there? Does it become dark? Does it become bright because of day and night? Nothing happens to akasha. All these qualities that we perceive on the platform called akasha, they appear there. These are imposed on akasha. These gunas are attributed. However, akasha is nowhere touched by any of these. Akasha is not undergoing any vikara or modification. Akasha doesn't have to adjust itself or modify itself for the rainbow to appear in the sky. Akasha doesn't have to dress up in 7 colors for rainbow to appear. Akasha has no color. It remains without any colors. The rainbow appears to our eyes as an independent reality, and we might confuse the akasa looks blue and red, like you have in the po- polar regions. Suddenly, the sky appears as red or green in the winters and the summers, but the sky doesn't have any colors. Yeah. Therefore, he's saying, Asmin eva sarve vyavaharaha vishayaha visayataya cha Vishayinam apekhyate. Whenever you have any Vishayin, so you have any object, then there is a object, the knowledge is there. There is an object of knowledge. So there is object, there is a subject. Apekhyate. Swasmin swang vishaya bhavitum na arhati. But you cannot, there is something called subject object conflict. You cannot talk about, I mean, the tongue cannot talk about itself. The tongue cannot talk to itself. The eye cannot see itself. The self cannot see itself. It cannot make itself the object of its perception. Ataha tasya anubhava rupasya. Therefore, that Atma, which is anubhava swarupa, jnana swarupa, anubhava vishayatvam nasti iti bhavaha. Therefore, it is not anubhava gochara. Means it's not the object of anybody's knowing experience or object of knowing. Tatra upapattim darshayati. There he is giving some logical argument to justify it. Upapatti. What is it? Gyatri iti. So what is that? In the top he mentions Gyatra Jnanantara Bhavat. That is the argument. Why it's not possible? He's saying Gyatra Jnanantara Bhavat because the Gyata and the Jnana, these are not different. वस्तु अतिरिक्तयोर ज्ञात्र ज्ञानयोर अभावात अज्ञेयः. There is no distinction between jnana and jnata. Where will you get jnatva? The knowledge and the knower are the one and the same thing. Where to talk about object of knowledge? Not to asattaya, not to tasya abhavat. It's not because it's agya, and therefore it's agya because it doesn't exist. There are two ways to look at it. Something you cannot see. Why so? Because it is asat. I just mentioned there are three kinds of agya, three categories of unknowable. One is completely nonsensical false, like a barren lady's son. It's completely asat, so you cannot know it. But here, Atma is not so. It is not knowable because it is Swayam Prakasha. It is not because of unknowable because it is asat, or because it is unknowable, you can't argue it is asat. Both the ways. ज्ञेय अतिरिक्त अतिरिक्तयोर ज्ञात्र ज्ञानयोः सत्वे ज्ञेयत्व व्यवहार दृष्टः. This is the logical temple empirical knowledge is possible when you have ज्ञेय अतिरिक्त. There is a subject, a scientist, अतिरिक्त ज्ञेय, he is talking about chemistry. ज्ञात्र ज्ञानयोः, whatever it discovers is his scientific knowledge. If we have this kind of tripartite division of categories, the knower, the knowledge, and the object of knowledge. If you have so, Gyotva Vyavahara Drishtaha, then we can say there is something knowable. Prakrite tad abhavad. Prakriti means not nature. Prakriti means in asmin prakarane, in the context in which we are discussing, that is not there. Abhavat agnya iti uchyate. Therefore, the Atma is agnya. Simple. Then we'll go to the next verse, interesting equally. Anubhavasya anubhavatri sapakhyatva niyamat. Whenever, now the counter question is again saying, Anubhavasya, whenever you experience anything, Anubhavitri sapekhyatva niyamat. Any anubhava is possible only when there is a person to experience it. Right? That's what you argue. If you are able to say you had a wonderful sleep and you didn't know anything, I have to agree with you that there was somebody in you who had a good sleep and experienced the happiness during that good sleep. No experience is possible without one anubhavita, somebody who experienced it. That is the argument. Simple logic. So, anubhavaha anubhavitri Sapekhyah. Whenever there is an experience, there has to be somebody who experiences it. Done. Gyatri bhavat iti hetuhu asiddha. Now you are trying to say, because there is no distinction between Gyatri and Jnana, there is nothing called Gyatri, Jnana, Bheda. There is no such Bheda. Therefore, it is Agnya. That logic doesn't stand. Why? Either you say there is no Anubhava, there is no knowledge, there is no knowing, I have no problem. If you are saying there is some experience is happening, there has to be an experiencer. Now, you are saying experiencer is not different from experience. That means there is no experiencer, only experience is there. But that experience is not possible without an experiencer. He is coming back at the Vedanti, paying him in the same coin, so to say. He's saying, you're saying the experiencer and the experience are one. Because this Atma is itself experience. Oh, really? It's Jnana Swarupa, really. But Jnana is possible only if there is a Jnata, who is different from the Jnana. Knowledge of physics presupposes somebody who knows physics. You cannot talk about existence of knowledge of physics. You cannot talk about the science of physics without somebody who knows it. Yeah? And therefore, this argument that because the self is not knowable, yeah, and therefore it's not knowable because there is no knower and knowledge distinction. This argument you are saying, that means there is no knower, only jnana is there. Well, for jnana to be there has to be a jnata. And then this is logic very weak. Iti sankam drishtanta purvakam tan niyama bhava pradarsanena pariharati. He's saying, look, my boy, you have to understand one thing. You have picked up some logic somewhere, you know. So when we studied physics, yeah, and then suddenly at high classes we got introduced to de Broglie and Heisenberg, yeah, and then the whole gamut of quantum mechanics. And suddenly, when you are struck with it, you are even more confounded. If somebody says there's nothing called reality, it's all observer dependent, it becomes very challenging for the mind to grasp these ideas, isn't it? So we pick up our understanding of classical physics, and then you open a book, you try to read some guy or try to listen to somebody on YouTube talking about the contemporary developments in physics, contemporary modern physics, you get completely confused. You give this particular YouTube video or any of the material which is available to any high school guy, he will be completely confused. He said, what are you trying to say? If I don't know, there is no moon. If we are not there, there shall be no. Of course, there are two opposite views even now. But there's going to be a lot of mental confusion. Similarly, the student of Vedanta who doesn't understand the central insight of Vedanta is coming up with a question: how is it possible to talk about knowledge without a knower who is different from this knowledge? Because Vedanta says the knower, the knowledge, and the known are just one thing, pure consciousness. He's saying, how do you say this? There has to be knowledge, and the knower has to be different from the knowledge. Because without a knower, knowledge is not possible. That he's trying to say. Now he's now to discard that particular thing, taking the student to a higher level of insightful meditation on the truth. No theories, insightful meditation. What is that? The niyama bhava pradarsanena. No such rule exists that knowledge is not possible without a knower as distinct from it. I also say that because in Susupti Kala you have Ananda as your Anubhava, therefore there is Sakshi Chaitanya. But they have to be different. That is not required. That is explaining. Now he's giving an example. Madhuryadi swabhavanam anyatra gunarpinam swasmin tadarpana peksha no chastyanya darpakam. Madhuryadi swabhavanam. Now he's giving a beautiful example. So you have rabidi, a human, you have custard, you have chocolate, you have apple pie, you have Indian dishes like you have this cheesecake, or you have sandesh in Bengal. These are all sweet. Yeah. And why are they sweet? Because they have been mixed with sugar, either jaggery or sugar or honey. You have this, they have this Nolan good sandesh, right? So they have this palm jaggery, which they, very special jaggery they put in the sandesh, and it's very tasty, very expensive. 1,000 rupees now, 1 kilo. So this is very expensive. You have to buy it. Now the whole question is, what gives sweetness to honey? What gives sweetness to sugar? Sandesh sweetness is derived from honey or jaggery or sugar. Yeah, done. Agreed. From where the sweetness of jaggery or sugar or honey is derived? No, that's his swabhava, because we cannot show another source as a cause of his sweetness. Wherever we are unable to trace a cause outside of something which has a certain quality, that quality we refer to as the essential nature of that particular thing. If somebody has borrowed money from the bank, there is an outstanding loan against him. But somebody is rich, he has his own money. He can spend it. Where do you get the money? No, I didn't get it from anywhere. I had the money. It's like that. He's saying Madhur Yadi Swabhavanam. All these qualities. Now, these qualities are self sufficient. That's what he's trying to drive home. What he's trying to say is that these qualities that you are trying to refer to, like sweetness or bitterness, so you have bitter gourd or you have neem leaves. What gives what gives bitterness to the neem leaves? What gives bitterness to the bitter gourd? I mean, that's by nature they're bitter. Now, if you put that neem leaf in any of the dish, that also will become bitter. Yeah. So he's saying madhuryadi swabhavana. So all these qualities, anyatra swa gunarpinam. And then when they are added to something else, they all become, sweet. Swasmin tad arpana apeksha na. However, when we talk about sweetness of that sugar, sweetness of the honey, sweetness of that, small amount of jaggery or large amounts of jaggery, nocha asti anyadarpakam. You cannot find out some other cause, some other source of sweetness. Therefore, you must accept that the sugar is by nature sweet. Why do you give this example? Because that is the example the author here is giving in order to explain that Atma doesn't borrow the light to be visible, it's self luminous. Atma doesn't have to be known by somebody else to be knowledge. Jnana Swarupa. Jnana is possible. Atma is Jnana Swarupa. So there must be somebody else who is a knower. Okay. Then who will know that knower? There has to be some other knower. Okay. Who will know that knower? There has to be some other known. You know what is it called? It's called anavastha dosha. There's an eternal regression which goes on. You cannot find a point where you can conclude that its existence is certain. Therefore, we say Atma is Swayam Prakasha. Yeah, it's very simple. Anyatra, anyatra अपपादि अन्य वस्तुषु स्वगुणार्पिणानां स्वस्य माधुर्यादि गुणानाम् अर्पणं कुर्वताम् माधुर्यादि स्वभावानां माधुर्यादि धर्माणां स्वस्मिनेव तद अर्पण अपेक्षा माधुर्यादि संपादन अपेक्षा नो नैव विद्यते. Yeah. So if you the simple point he's trying to make is that the sweetness that you attribute to something else where they have been mixed, you can come back to the sugar or the jaggery or the honey, but when it comes to themselves, anyad arpakam vastuapi nasti, when it comes to their own existence as sweetness, is there any external cause other than what they are? No. Anyad arpakam vastuapi nasti, there is no other cause which endows them with sweetness. Therefore, saying amadhurana madhurya sampadane madhura vastu samparko abhilasitaha, which by nature is not madhura, that means it's not sweet. Anything by nature which is not sweet, if it tastes sweet, then you have to presume that somebody has mixed some jaggery or sugar, or now, what is it called? You have certain herbal leaves for sugar leaf that you mix it. Madhurya sampadane. So he's saying it's avalisitaha. So you can anticipate that this sweetness can be attributed to either sugar or jaggery or this honey or anything. Swataha madhuro na tat samparka apeksha, which by nature is sweet. It doesn't require any help from jaggery. Doesn't need the help of sugar. Sugar doesn't need the help of jaggery or honey. They're by nature sweet. Tatra madhuryasya swataheva siddhatvat. Now this is called drishtanta. There is called drishtanta, drashtantika samanvaya. What is drishtanta is the example. Drashtantika is where we are discussing. So the example will be applied to the main context. Therefore, we're going to the next verse. What is he trying to say this? Arpakantararahityepi aste sang tat sabhavata Ma bhutadανubhavyatvam bodhatma tu hiyate. Arpaka antara rahitye api. Now, in case of sugar or anything else, arpakantara rahityepi asti esam ka naam madhuryadi swabhavana. These Esha means of these. Of these means what? These qualities such as bitterness or sweetness or sourness. All these qualities, even though there is no other external cause which makes a lemon sour, there is no external cause which makes bitter gourd bitter in taste. There is no other external cause which makes sugar sweet. There is an external cause which makes a lemonade sour because you have mixed lemon with it. There is an external cause which makes a piece of sandesh or apple pie sweet because there is some sugar addition to it. In case of sugar, a jaggery, a honey, which are by nature sweet, there is no external causality which we can trace. That is what he's trying to say. Therefore, tat swabhavata, that sweetness, that bitterness, they haven't borrowed it. It's not borrowed sweetness, it's not borrowed bitterness or sourness, it's their very nature. Mavut tad anubhavyatvam. Now we're coming to the Atma thing. Mavut tad atmanaha anubhavyatvam. Okay, the Atma to be experienced, to be validated, requires somebody to experience it, to observe it, to perceive it, and then verify its existence. That is the problem of a materialistic or rational mind. He's saying, Mahabhut tad anubhavyatvam. The author is saying, the Siddhanti is saying, I don't bother. Let there be no experienceability, knowability of the Atman. It's not knowable by an external knower. Fine, no problem. Bodhatma natu huyate. That doesn't rob the self of the Atma of its Atma Shurupata. It is Bodha Shurupa. Bodha is one who knows. Bodha is the jnana. Bodhabhya is what you know. That kind of a distinction is drawn in the normal case of empirical knowledge. Yeah. However, when you're talking about pure consciousness, that pure consciousness is jnana itself. So Jnana word is very confusing. Knowledge word is very confusing. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, where it is saying Satyam Jnanam, here Jnana is not knowledge of Satya or knowledge of anything. Satyam eva Jnanam. Satyam and Jnana is just reference to the one single unified reality. In order for our conceptual grasp, which is so difficult, the Shruti Bhagavati, the Upanishads, try to explain it in so many words. It's the same luminous reality. That is the point that we have to understand. Therefore, he's saying, Mavut tad anubhavyatvam bodhatma tu nahiyate. It doesn't lose its bodha swarupata. Yeah. Now, going back example, the sky. You have a rainbow, you see lightning, you hear a lot of noise of thunderbolts. The sky doesn't have to be any of these, and yet it has its own Swarupa, which makes its main Swarupa is what? The Jnana. Avakasa Pradatritvam. That is how they say that it gives you space to move. It retains its pure essential nature. And it doesn't lose its essential nature. For a thunderbolt to be possible, Akasha doesn't have to become a thunderbolt. For lightning to be possible, the Akasha doesn't become lightning. For clouds to be possible, the Akasha, the sky doesn't become cloud. It doesn't become a rainbow. It doesn't become any of these. Yet all these things are possible in the sky. Similarly, the Atman, the self, provides that unending, ever luminous, everlasting, eternal platform on which all that we see, all that we experience, all that we call as reality, about which you write theories, all these are flourishing, blossoming, being expressed, they are appearing and disappearing on the Atman. But it's bodha swarupata, its essential nature as pure consciousness, as pure knowledge, is not lost. Why is he saying bodhatma natu hiyate? Because earlier he said that Atma is Anubhuti Swarupa itself. That thing is its essential nature. Just because you are looking for an external knower, an external subject, which is different from this knowledge, and that it cannot be an object of knowing, is something external to the knower. The Atma doesn't exist. The Atma is not Jnana Swarupa. These kinds of arguments you are making because you are not able to understand a deeper insight in Vedanta that Atma is Bodha Swarupa, here, nor, known, knowledge. All these distinctions merge into one unified reality. That is referred to as Jnana Swarupa. Why this emphasis on the word Jnana? Why this emphasis on the Bodha? You have a valid question. You can ask that. You know why? Otherwise, we would become like those who are giving us the unified field theory in physics. The unified field theory is talking about that field which is Jada. Atma is not Jada, it's not inanimate, it's pure consciousness. Now there are a lot of people who are coming around to also look at this particular vision and believe, and they've begun to believe that consciousness is not a process or function of the brain, but it's a reality on which everything else appears. And there are many interesting people who are talking about it. But we are not going that way right now. They will all come during our discussions. So he's saying, Tatheva Atmanaha Anubhavyatvam Jnana Vishayatvam Mavut Ma Astu. Let there be, it's possible that Atma is not Jnana Vishaya. So what? Tanmatrena bodhatma tu jnana swarupa atma na tu hiyate na tyajate. It doesn't get rid of its own essential nature. It's jnana swarupa, bodha swarupa. It's pure consciousness. It is not jada. It's not inanimate. Therefore, just because it's not jnana vishaya, by virtue of that argument itself, Atma neither becomes something, an unknown entity becomes non existent. No, no, don't talk like this. It doesn't discard its swarupa, its essential nature is bodha swarupa. I had a very interesting experience. Recently, I had gone to Trichy, and then if you go to Trichirappalli, you have the great Srirangam temple. A lot of people in Orissa feel very proud about Jagannath temple and Lingaraj temple, but you need to visit few South Indian temples to realize what is a grand construction or a structure or temple. The Brihadishwara temple at Tanjavur, if you go to Trichy, the Vishnu temple, unimaginably grand and very meticulously done. Great artists have worked on the stones for decades to raise these beautiful temples. Now, away from this Trichy temple, which kind of you know assumes great significance of the city, if you go to another corner, there is a temple called Samayapuram, and there is a Amman temple, there is a Devi temple. And I asked that Pandit, the priest there, he's saying, what is the Vija mantra of these Mataji? Is she Kali? Is she Durga? Is she Saraswati? What is she? And the priest smiled and looked at me with a mild, compassionate look he gave me, and he said, actually, such names don't apply to her. I said, what do you mean? She's saying she's Shiva Swarupam. I loved it because this priest, who appeared to be a little educated, was very fluent in English. He said she's Shiva Swarupam. Why? Because the Shiva Shakti duality is at the level of Upasana only. In Shiva Sutra, we read it. So, this, because at the ultimate level, Shiva and Shakti, the Chaitanya and the Vimarsha, they are just one and the same thing. Chaitanya, Atma, Jnanam, Bandha, we have done all that. But if you look at that Swarupa, Prakasha and Vimarsha are just one reality. Shiva is the principle of Prakasha, Vimarsha is self awareness. Whenever you become aware that all these realities around me, I'm God, then Shakti, by virtue of that, he becomes Shiva. With the help of Shakti, only he becomes Shiva. Without Shakti, Shiva becomes Shava. You remove the Bija mantra. Without E Bija, what is he? Without that Shakti Bija, Shava is as good as dead. He cannot do anything. He can't even move an inch. Now, the truth of the matter is, Shiva Shakti, for the purpose of upasana, for the purpose of meditation, for the purpose of understanding the complexity of this reality, we need the philosophical construction of the subtlety of this creation in these sophisticated philosophical theories. But what is the ultimate truth? The ultimate truth is neither male nor female, neither Shiva nor Shakti. It's beyond that. And that is that. Therefore, he's trying to say, Jnana Swarupa Atma na tu hiyate na tyajate. That becomes that pure consciousness, that Jnana Swarupa, Bodha Swarupa. Anya Prakasyatva Abhavepi. There is, whenever something is known, you have a Prakashya Prakashaka Sambandha. Prakashya is what is visible. You have a torchlight, you put it on a tree. The tree becomes Prakashya. Prakashaka is the torchlight through which it becomes visible. When you know anything, you know it by the help of your brain. So it is the Prakashaka. Vedanta will smile and say, my boy, you don't confuse the mind as the knower. It's just a Chidavasa. It's that tiny mirror which is reflecting the sun. The real sun is Atma. Without that, Tameva Bhantam Anuhati Sarvam. Tasya Bhada Idam Sarvam Vibhati. Without that, nothing appears. That Atma is the source of all. This is the source, consciousness of everything. Anya prakasatva abhavepi. The Atman cannot be known by something, an entity different from the Atma. Even then, prakasasya upalabdher ityartha. Prakasa is still possible. The sun doesn't need a torchlight. It doesn't require floodlights. It declares itself. The Atma is similarly self-evident, self-luminous. That is trying to further explain by getting into the Shruti Vakyas in the verse number 16. atmanah swayam prakasatvam srota yuktya shrutya cha. So, there are two arguments he's giving. So, he will give you certain logical explanations, and then he'll also quote from the Upanishads. Pramanayan, and having established it, Yukti Bodhikam Shrutim Arthatah Patati. Now he's trying to, can you wait, Usera? Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone who is unmuted? Okay. So he's trying to explain to us that we have to make sense of it. Yukti Bodhikam Shrutim Arthata Patati. So he's quoting a few statements from the Upanishads which will drive home this point. Let's look at this sloka number 16, which is very nice. Swayam Jyotirbhavatyesa Purusmad Bhasati Khilat Tameva Bhantam Anveti Tadbhasa Bhasyate Jagat. Swayam Jyotihi Bhavati Esha. It's Swayam Jyotihi, means self-luminous. Jyoti here is not referring to physical light. We are referring to physical light is Jada. We are referring to that Jyoti which is consciousness. Bhavati Esha. Esha Atma. Swayam Jyotihi Bhavati. Puroho Asmad Bhasate Akhilat. Now, whatever you see, because the sun, now the presence of the whole world at the location where we are living right now becomes visible. Everybody's presence is verified when the sun appears on the horizon in the morning. Yeah. So, asmad bhasate khilal tameva bhantam. When that lights up, anveti tadabhasa bhasyate jagat. By virtue of the light of consciousness of the Atma, of the Brahman, everything else, all phenomenal realities we are talking about, everything that we talk about, physics, chemistry, mathematics, literature, human beings, animals, birds, all these realities we are talking about, to be possible, one has to presuppose existence of consciousness. That consciousness which doesn't undergo any changes for all these realities to appear and disappear. Might look a little tricky, but that is explained slowly and slowly as we move forward. That home, that truth will find a home in us only through deep reflection on that truth. Let's look at the commentary. We have 1 minute. We are trying to finish it, or we have almost hit the time. Esa jnana swarupa atma swayam jyotihi prakasantaram anapekya. It doesn't require someone else to declare it. Swayam prakasho bhavati. Swaprakasho bhavati. It becomes self-luminous. Yadaha ayam asmad bhasamanad akhilad sarvasmad jagataha puraha srishtihe pragbhasate. It exists and it's always luminous, even before all these realities have appeared. Before the sun and the moon appeared, the Atma was always there. Ataha swayam prakashaha, therefore it is self-luminous. Evang shrutipaditam yuktim pradarshya pramanabhutam. He's trying to now give you some logical arguments from the Upanishads. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vivati. That is the Mundaka Upanishad. Tameva bhantam. When that lights up, everything becomes visible. Tasya bhasa idam sarvam vibhati. With the light of that Atman, that is not physical light, the light of consciousness, everything else becomes real. Iti. Shrutim arthata patati tam iti bhantam prakashamanam. Upar he is mentioning tameva bhantam anveti. He is saying prakashamanam tam atmanam sarvam jagat anveti anushritya bhasa. Anveti, it follows. Wherever the mother goes, the children will go behind it. Yeah. Similarly, because the Brahman is self-evident, everything else derives its evidence, its verifiability, its reality from that supreme reality called the self. Tad bhasa jagata bhasate. Yad bhave jagat Andhya prasanga iti bhavaha. The sun doesn't appear, everything becomes dark. Jagat andhya prasanga. There'll be no knowability without the self there. Therefore, we will carry it forward. We just crossed the timeline. So it's a good time to bring it to a close, and we'll meet again. Tomorrow is Shivaratri, but I hope that you will do your pujas afterwards, and let's discuss how to go about it, whether you want to change the time, prepone it by half an hour or so. You can send it to me by email, then we can do it maybe a little. So let's do the Shanti mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So